Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of GMAT Success Talks, where in this podcast series, we typically feature students from corporate backgrounds, engineers, consultants, and managers, among others. But today we have a truly unique and fascinating guest. Our guest not only juggles a demanding full time job, but is also making a name for himself as an actor in the film industry. Amidst balancing two intense careers, he took on an even bigger challenge, the GMAT, and of course, the MBA applications. And his journey wasn't smooth sailing after three unsuccessful attempts, right? He made some drastic changes to his preparation, and in his fourth attempt, achieved an astonishing 98th percentile score. Clap, 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 clap. Good job. But today we'll hear firsthand about your incredible transformation, Sandy, your strategies, the lessons you learned along the way. So, without further ado, let's get this started. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Sandalia Babipali. I go by Sandy. I'm 25 years old and I was raised in like a couple of countries. I was in Australia as a kid. I was in India for a couple of years and I moved to America during like my high school years. Kind of drawn to like a lot of different like the arts pretty much from when I was a kid. So I wanted to like be an actor, wanted to make movies and that sort of thing. But being Indian, I started like studying computer science out in school. Like, so that was cool. I got to kind of experience that world as well. Kind of like learned a little bit of like what happens in the tech space of things. College got done. I was juggling between being like an analyst of sorts during my day job and kind of like navigating, trying to be an actor, doing a lot of agency work, doing a lot of short films, writing my own scripts, and working with the local production house out here. It kind of got a little overwhelming, and I was trying to find my footing and what I wanted to do. So that kind of drew me towards an aspiration to go to business school and kind of like blend my passions towards like entertainment as well as like technology and everything and business. So that's kind of how the MBA journey started off, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a full circle almost from computer science to acting and now business school. Crazy. And how long have you been an actor?
I've kind of like always had an interest in it. I started training when I moved to America during high school, but
Mhm.
the seed for wanting to like be in film was when I was like super little. I was like just grew up watching a lot of film. I think Toy Story was one of the first times I was like I like the basically like the storytelling like part of thing.
And any interesting films that you shot that you'd like to mention here?
So there was actually a movie called Something About Him that we made with like some my friends now. We actually like became friends during the filming process. It was a super fun movie to make. It was like a coming of age story. Uh, I got to be part of like the behind the scenes, like the scripting and everything. But otherwise, I've done like a lot of other short films out here. There's one called The Writer's Journey, and I actually got to like shoot a Lululemon commercial, like just a little
Okay.
in a month ago. So that was kind of fun.
Oh, awesome. Well, I mean, that's amazing. And hey, whatever you've mentioned, guys, if you're watching, check his workout, right? We can always comment it
Like,
down below once the session ends.
there's a lot more work to do as me as an actor, I guess. So it's like it'll take some
There's
time.
there's always room to grow everywhere. So, but the fact that you're already doing it and it's up and running, amazing. Good for you. But yeah, I mean, let's go back to the GMAT because that's something like I saw I read your journey a little bit. I think you started preparing in late 2023, right? But your approach apparently lacked direction. So how did that start?
So yeah, I started prepping while I was juggling multiple things, like working, like doing that film I just talked about, and like starting the GMAT. I started off at like not the greatest time because it was right after Halloween and Thanksgiving was coming, like my birthday was coming up and Christmas was coming up. Everybody was on vacation and I started studying then. So it was already like a bad time to start, like because everybody around me is having fun and I'm just sitting in front of the like basically trying to study. So that was something. And I was in a rush to kind of get it done by um December. So my family was going on this cruise, and I was like, okay, like it'll be beautiful to finish this and go, and like that'll be like a
Mm-hmm.
basically like me taking a dub in a way. But I didn't basically like take timed exams. I took exams, but it wasn't timed. I was doing that. Uh, and while I was like doing some practice problems by myself, I wasn't timing myself at all and not prepping myself to be at the exam.
Mm-hmm.
TTP is one tool that I used that time that helped me a little bit. But I remember going to the exam center thinking, okay, this will work out. I was getting like maybe like this was when it was the classic GMAT. So I was
Mm-hmm.
getting 640, 650s on like the practice exams. And somehow I miraculously hoped for a 700 in the real exam. I went in and that did not happen. I remember I got like not the greatest score and I did not finish the exam even. So I was really upset. So just canceled my score. I tried to look it up for our conversation today, but it wasn't there.
I mean, yeah, I mean, when you have Halloween and Christmas and birthday, and that's like the time that you just want to relax and enjoy the holidays. But no, you decided with the GMAT. So I completely understand how it can ruin your whole study journey in a way. But I did read that afterwards you did take around a 2 month break, and then you again returned in April 2024 with a more structured approach. So, what exactly did you do then?
So I actually took like a little time off. I did go on like the vacation of my family, came back, and I started off like with the classic GMAT again, but then I realized Feb 1st, like the exam changes. So in a way, that was I had to kind of like restart my entire process. Uh, I was glad in a way because sentence correction was definitely not my strong suit. So that changing was of like advantage to me. But other than that, I was like, I went into how to approach all of these questions and kind of, in one way, understood the GMAT's trying to like not just test your knowledge in these subjects, but trying to gauge how you're going to be thinking to approach and solve these problems. So that
Mm-hmm.
thing that changed really for me. So when I got
Mm-hmm.
that, I started kind of like, okay, approaching these questions differently. That helped. And I actually finished the entire TTP course that I like signed up for once again because earlier when I started studying in TTP, I actually did not finish it. So not just the other thing that I did was taking more timed exams and more regular exams and having like a realistic gauge on it, not expecting that like a miracle would happen on exam day, but actually kind of making sure maybe I'll actually get a lesser score than what I did on like my practice exams, and the real exam was kind of the mindset I approached it with, and did a rigorous amount of training around it. Honed in on the math concepts that were being tested more so. Um, and did a lot of reading on my own because I used to not read like at all. So I
Mm-hmm.
practicing reading a little better, as well as DI. I think was just getting familiar with like how the questions were gonna be. So those three things helped.
Gotcha. And I think so. When you studied again in April, then you took the exam in June, but I think you took it twice. Why?
Basically, I got like the first time I took that the exam in June, I got a 635. Uh, and but I think that's like an 86 something percentile. And when I took that, it was it was a good exam. Actually, I thought I did pretty well because I forgot to like. I mean, there was the last question. There's like the 21 question mark in math. I got 20 questions done, and the last question I had everything but forgot to press the submit button like on time. Like I was still checking, I was still checking and everything. I should have kind of gone back and started checking instead. So that was a mistake I did. But I did really well on the other two sections. And when I actually saw my score, it was very like disheartening because I would have probably got my 695 or 700 plus score back then had I just completed that because you get heavily penalized for not doing that question. And uh, unanswered question, especially in math, I feel like, because in DI, sometimes if you leave it, you don't get that heavily penalized from whatever practice exams that I've taken from GMAT, like official and everything. But math, I got heavily penalized. But that kind of gave me a little bit of hope to that exam score because when I looked at like the breakdown, English, I got like a 96th percentile or something. And DI, I was still at like a 90 plus. So this kind of brought my score down because I got like a 57 percentile on math for leaving it unanswered and getting like maybe one or two other things wrong.
I
So
see.
that like a lot. So I was like, okay, maybe I can fix this. I go back 2 weeks later, and guess what happens? Same thing. But
Oh,
same thing as in math was that actually I didn't have the time for the last question. And that affected my thinking for the other two. But
oh,
plot twist here, this time I actually got like a really high math percentile because I got 20 out of the 21 right this time.
oh, wow.
So
Good.
the bizarre place to be because what did not like I was like so zoned in the first time I took it right after missing math to get the other two right, and I did well on the other two, but I was like I thought I already lost the game when I did the math thing. The same thing happened the next time. It
Hmm.
was the exact opposite situation. I got the same exact score, the same percentile, but math was 20 out of 21 right this time, and the one question was unanswered, so I didn't get as penalized. And I was
Okay.
like, okay. At this time, everyone around me was like, okay, you kind of like went deep into the GMAT journey, and I was like, really, that's all I could think about for some time. So my brain was not in like a very like restful state. So everyone was like, you maybe be done with it at this point. Probably like some school or the other you can get into and figure it out from there. But something in me was still itching to take like another time, so I went ahead this time with no expectations. I actually started in acting school around then, so I was kind of like leaning into that journey more so because by then I'd left my job. I decided I'd focus on like the arts for a year before business school, and started getting into this class, and we were learning exercises which were uh, I feel like might have helped me on the exam, to be honest. I was still taking some, it was like 5 days into the course, though. So it was just like opening up exercises we were doing in like acting school. But I started like, okay, maybe doing like, I did one practice exam like 2 days before and went in. Practice exam, I continuously kept doing them. And the least I was getting at that point on practice exams was like a 685. I was getting 685s to 745s. That's kind of like the range I was hitting. So I was like, I was confident about maybe, but this time about getting like that score on the real exam. But at the same time, I was like, I'll go in with no expectations. Went,
Hmm.
and this time it worked out, I guess. So I did whatever I was doing in the practice exams without thinking too much, and it worked out.
I mean, yeah, when you keep your mind calm throughout this exam, I feel like with a lot of students, it just works out for the
Mhm.
best. When you get really tensed and nervous, it really like yeah, it can ruin a lot of things. But what do you think it was because of your nervousness quant did not go well, or you lacked in the basics, your fundamentals were not that great? What was the issue with quant that you faced in the second and third attempt?
Uh, the second and third attempt, I think the quant was good. It was just it was just like pacing. It was also the first time the pacing was perfect. Like I had like 5 minutes left in the last question. I was stuck on getting the thing right, and actually at that juncture, I couldn't remember that submit and then go recheck my work. Second
Hmm.
time, the pacing was slightly off. The second time, I mean the third time because I was not counting the first time, but in like these like the last three times with the focus. Um, the first time I was just like the pacing was right, but I didn't remember the submit and then come back and check the thing like because that's something that's allowed in GMAT focus. Uh, and that basically the third time, which is the second time with a new focus, is I had the pacing all wrong with math, and then like not finishing like that and like the previous result affected my psyche towards the rest of the exam.
I see. And what was the duration? Like, how long did it take to take your fourth and final attempt after your third one?
I gave it like 21 days or something because I didn't want to lose the momentum I had.
That's
And
good.
I think I gave it like 3 weeks.
Oh, okay. That's actually really nice because a lot of students they sometimes they kind of give up and they're like, okay, let me take like a long break. But then by then they actually forget a lot of the stuff they learned and they have to again gain that momentum. So what you did was actually really good. And you said you were starting your acting school in between, like before your fourth attempt.
Yep, yep. So that was just like I was like I already planned everything out. I thought this would be done by then and then I would start. But I guess like it is what it is.
Interesting. Interesting. But when you said you had a pacing issue, what like could you kind of talk a little bit about that problem? What exactly in the pacing did you notice? Was it again because you did not understand the concept well and you were struggling with one particular question, or you just did not practice the pacing strategy before?
I think I practiced the pacing strategy a decent bit at that point. I know I learned the time management technique and like basically drawing it into four quadrants and having that time below that really helped me a lot. And if somebody's watching, it's basically like divide the four page into four sections and have like how much time you should realistically have after all of these four questions is something that I actually learned in GMAT club. Somebody was talking about that. So that is something that really helped me, especially with math and DI. English, like verbal was its own thing. So verbal was, I never struggled with time, but these two, like, that was something that really helped. Uh, for math, I feel like it was just like I did not go to the next question or have a guess when I was stuck on something. I kind of like lingered on with that question a lot longer because I was like, okay, I'll make up time later. But I should have just kind of come back to it and like book, like have like had like start that and come back later. But whenever I did that, that's probably like what like led to me not being able to get to something on time and spend as much time on something else because
Gotcha.
at the moment, even if you know the answer to these questions, it's about at the moment like leaving things and looking at the bigger picture sometimes and coming back if there's time.
Gotcha. And for all of the three sections, because of course you took the classic, classic was a little different. You didn't have DI. You also had sentence correction, which you said you struggled with. But in focus, we don't have SC anymore. It was just RC and CR that you had to manage with. And of course, the data insights. So for all these three sections, what was your strategy? Did you have all your basics covered before you took your second and third attempt? And what all resources did you use?
For sure. I think I had like my basics like really clear at that point because I spent a lot of time kind of going through like not just the GMAT official books, but going through TTP. I had like a tutor for like a month, which was 8 hours or some 8 hours. So that helped because the tutor gave me some tips on certain topics, which really carried over to the exam and it stuck with me. And it's not just about them guiding you on the fundamentals, is what I learned. It's them guiding you on how to approach the exam. And
Mhm.
that is something that was very insightful. Um, and another thing that for each of the different like sections, I would say for RC and CR, I focused on reading more, reading like different kinds of material just in my own like because if somebody like me is taking it, that's something like I don't really read unless it's like something like on my phone, and that did not help. So I had to kind of like actually sit down and read books. So that is something that really helped and just like speed up my own reading game and focus
Mhm.
POV, like the point of view when it came to certain questions. Is the author saying it? Is somebody else saying it? Like these kind of things were important for RC. CR was kind of like also just what is being asked, like so just focusing in on that really helped. Coming to math, um, I was decent at it, so it was just pacing was like the main thing, and
Of
focusing
course.
on the foundational things that TTP had, which really helped me in the starting. And I feel like while I was at the last game of it, math was, it kind of took a backseat. That's the reason the math issues that happened at 2 and 3, because I was like, okay, I think I'm decent at it, so I'll focus on the other two. DI
Right.
was really just like familiarizing myself with the question types,
Mm,
doing more and more practice exams, and I feel like it just kind of stuck because
gotcha.
it's a lot to absorb in like it's like a couple of questions in this much time. How do I answer them in 45 minutes? So
Mm,
20 questions in 45 minutes for a DI kind of thing was, it looks like a lot because you got to understand that graph, you got to do this. But when you understand what's actually being asked, oh, then you realize it's much easier. So just familiarizing myself was key to the DI.
I see. But then it didn't. I think it did not take you too much time to familiarize yourself with all the three sections. Uh, Correct?
Yep, yep. I think it took a decent bit of time. It took a decent bit of studying, like and it was a lot of like mental like prep for it. But I feel like it all.
I feel like your whole journey was super chill. With the way you talk, I feel like your whole journey, but maybe the way it is backstage is like a whole other thing. Like
I guess right now reminiscing about it, it's like seems a lot more chill. If I ask them like family about it, they wouldn't agree. They would say,
oh,
"Oh,
really?
no, I was not chilling back then."
No, crazy. But when you were saying that you had to do a lot of reading for RC, I was just thinking, did reading your acting scripts help as well? Like, does that help with your RC in any
No,
way?
because acting scripts are like kind of like okay, you just have like a thud and then like there's like another sentence from somebody and then like all that, so it's like very different. I feel like it was better to read like an actual like memoir or like just like a
I
book.
feel like it must have been the opposite for you. After you taking the GMAT four time, when you look at your scripts, you must be like, "Oh my God, there's this grammatical error, and like it should be like this," and because that's what happened with me once. And I was like, "I'm assessing my words too much." Like, okay, let's go back to the old Selby. But I'm sure that must have happened with you at one point.
Like, and like I think like the math stuff or like just kind of how you approach stuff, at least
Yeah.
for it sticks on.
Sure, for sure. But yeah, and I also read that there were other resources like our GMAT Club debriefs and the GMAT Ninja videos that help. So can you like talk a little bit how these two resources helped out with your preparation?
Yeah, no, totally. I used to like while I was going through all of this, like I just kind of like was like, am I doing this alone? Because um I'm 25 and a lot of people I turned 25 like 2 months ago. A lot of my friends are did not start like the GMAT stuff and they're planning to probably start it if they do a couple of years down the line. So uh, I felt alone in that journey because I started off alone. And the GMAT thing kind of gave me a community, firstly, and it gave me a lot of tips and tricks about how to approach these things. I learned like the time management stuff from like GMAT Club, and GMAT Ninja really like helped me get that foundation, especially in verbal. Verbal was something I was, because I did not read, I did not do anything like that, so I was not like in the strongest place. But the GMAT Ninja video was like kind of like rocketed my like verbal in a span of like 3 weeks. Like in 3 weeks, the verbal thing just kind of like went up. I think even for I feel like both of these things, GMAT Ninja was super super good. Like
Yeah, his videos were really nice.
I would say it kind of like explained like the concepts and kind of made me understand everything a lot better than anything I'd done that till then. So I always like recommend GMAT Ninja to anybody like when they're asking me about it. And like yeah, GMAT Club, like just like listening to the debriefs, like all the interviews with like people who've taken the exam and who actually like gotten like good scores. It was encouraging to see their thought process, how they approach the exam and their own journey. You realize sometimes it's not just like 2 months like I planned it originally. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, everyone comes to GMAT Club thinking, hey, it will take us like 1 month max, and we're done. But like no, like every single person who's come on the debrief are like, our journey started 2 years ago, and after 7 attempts, we finally reached the point where we wanted to.
Yeah, no, I'm glad it's done though. I'm really glad. It was fun.
Well,
This is the first time I actually enjoyed taking an exam though. I liked the GMAT, and that kind of gave me like a hope that I'd enjoy the MBA process too. But
mhm.
I'll because I was not really somebody that liked exams and like going to school, like all of that. Like most of us don't. So like that's like I was part of that, and like but this time I did enjoy it. So that was a positive sign.
No, that's a really good thing. And I'm so glad that the debriefs did not make you feel alone in this journey, which
And
is why, guys, just subscribe to the channel if you have not and like this video so that it reaches more people like Sandy at that point of time who really needed to watch videos like this and feel a little better about themselves.
then I like shared GMAT like club with like everybody I knew.
Oh, that's so sweet. No, but really, it's incredible that I mean this was a while ago now, and you've already applied to business school, right? Or
I did round
yeah.
one because I got my score like early, like I think like late no early September. Early September is when I was like I got the score.
Oh, awesome. Okay, perfect. And like regarding your final attempt, like I know that we discussed a little briefly about like what all changed, but is there something else that you missed out on which really helped you get the score that you wanted?
I had a really good night's sleep, and it was not in like my own like hands. Somehow it was like I slept at 10 o'clock or 10:30, woke up at 8:30, ate some food, and did not stuff myself. Went to the exam center a little early, kind of like walked around, went into the room, sat down, and started like going. I guess like it was just like I felt like I was ready, to be honest. That's the only thing. But I'd felt ready before, but this time I guess everything worked out and like I could pace myself on math. I always followed the same pattern, which was maths, DI, and verbal. Um,
Mm,
I think taking a second of a breather and not looking at it for a week before kind of helped because I was so like locked in and I was like, oh, this is another way, this is another way. So I was changing approaches constantly between
correct.
like second and third attempt. But the fourth attempt, I kind of like let go. And that
Mm,
really was some because you do all the work and you let go a little bit. And I think that's kind of when I saw those results.
I see. And regarding your practice test too, like did you cover all of the official ones before your fourth? Okay.
I did all the official ones. I did the one in GMAT Club. Then I did like the GMAT Club practice test. I also like I took some. The tutor was from Varsity Tutors, so like he gave me some other resources to take practice exams from, and I've repeated those practice exams too a couple of times. So that was like I did a lot of practice exams.
The varsity tutors helped you cover sorry, what did they help you out with in your GMAT prep?
Just like giving me more just more resources to do exams and like more questions, but also like video walkthroughs. I had like an 8 hour tutor from there, and he kind of like helped me a little bit. Like, and also like this is something I remembered. I forgot about it earlier, but he told me to kind of like go through like my previous exams and see where I went wrong and why
Mm,
there. And you actually kind of recognize a pattern. Each individual would have their own why they got that wrong. I could have missed a certain word. I could have missed a certain something. But
correct.
you see patterns repeating. And these are the why you go wrong. Because once you get your foundations right, and that's something you have to do. After that, I feel like there's some patterns that you miss sometimes. And you go back and you kind of like reassess them, and you understand, hey, this is something that I see that I'm repeating. Even if I'm getting a 735, it's the same pattern that's getting those few points off. So,
Correct.
like, okay, so that's something to fix. So fixing those gaps helped.
Yeah, when you really think about it, it's just you have to make sure you know what you're doing. Like that is the gist of the GMAT. Like you, if you understand why the answer is the answer, you're
Hmm.
already going in the right direction. And of course, I mean, that's just one part of it. There's, of course, the timing strategy, like you said. Then there's the mental pressure. I mean, those are like the secondary factors, but they're also super important to get the good score. But I mean, it is incredible that you managed to get the score you got after your fourth attempt. Um, and I mean, I recommend everyone to, of course, comment if they have any more questions for Sandy down below. And we will, of course, link Sandy's, like, Sandy, is there a way to like allow people to reach out to you if
Yeah,
you're comfortable?
no, totally, totally. I'd add in, like, I think a lot of people on these platforms put in their LinkedIn, right? So put in link.
And we'll put up your like film links if you allow us to. But you know, like
I'll give,
Sandy is.
I'll give like the only movie that's like worth watching so far and the thing.
No, for sure. I mean, but this was incredible. Thank you, Sandy, for taking out your time and giving us a little bit of an idea of how your GMAT prep went. And of course, if we ever missed out anything, again, guys, ask your questions in the comments, and Sandy and I will get back to your comments then. But thank you so much, Sandy.
Thank you, Shelby. And sorry about like the videos just on the phone. Like I had like a reboot morning, so I just
It
kind of,
still looks really good, so no problem.
yeah. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Take
Thank you
care.
for giving me the opportunity to like share my
For sure. Thank you.